Hi. In this session, we're going to engage the mobility of our pelvis. Oftentimes when life gets a little bit crazy, we really crave stability, and so we tend to minimize the motion and the mobilization that we have in our bodies. So by tapping into the mobility that we have in this supportive structure in the base of our torso, we also remind ourselves that we are most stable when we activate and use our mobility. I recommend that you do this in a seated position, preferably on a harder surface so that you can feel the contact points of your pelvis with the seat, and also that it's at a height where your feet can be flat and evenly on the floor. If all you have is a softer surface though, that's perfectly fine. You'll still get a similar result. You might even be able to mobilize a bit more, but let's get started. So first, sit down. Allow your hands to either fall onto your knees or thighs, and allow yourself to sit as tall as possible, feeling the bowl of your pelvis upright. If there were fluid inside of it, it wouldn't be tipped in any direction. It would be holding it nice and even. And then feeling the length of your spine stacked so that the center of the top of your head is reaching up towards the ceiling. And if you want, you can even start to close your eyes as you begin to tune in to your body. And what I want you to begin to do is tilting your pelvis backwards, so that that bowl would be spilling water out behind you, and then moving and tilting the pelvis forward so that bowl would then be tilting to spill out that water in front of you. So just gently tilting the pelvis backward and forward. You might even think about this as contracting and arching, but I want us to use as little muscle as possible. So just really feeling the pelvis tilting forward to back. And as we do this, see if you can feel the bones that sit at the very bottom of the pelvis, rocking and pressing down into your seat. These bones we often refer to as the sits bones or the sitting bones because we sit on them. The technical name is ischial tuberosities, if you don't already know that, but they essentially are like two rockers on a rocking chair. And so right now we're just rocking forward and back on those rockers. And go ahead and play with speed and time now. So maybe you go a little bit faster. And as you do it, see if you can feel how the spine responds all the way up through your head. For instance, my spine is kind of waving from front to back. And then go ahead and let that come to rest. Now I want us to see if we can begin to rock side to side on those sits bones. So basically rocking from one to the other. You might even feel the oppositional sits bone coming up and off of your seat. And then once again, feeling how the spine responds. Maybe you shift quickly, maybe you slow it down, allowing the spine to totally wave from side to side. And now, let's play back and forth between these two. So sometimes front to back, and as you shift, tilting the pelvis forward, you might feel the pubic symphysis, so that front portion of the pelvis where it comes together and meets. You might feel that reaching downward towards your seat, and as you rock backwards, you might feel your tailbone starting to shift towards the seat, maybe even making contact. Once again, from side to side into those sits bones. So now start to play in all the areas in between. Really rocking, tilting that pelvis in multiple directions, maybe rolling it around in circles, feeling the water pour out into different directions, and then allowing the rest of the spine to just respond. Allowing yourself to tap into your breath. And then allow that to come to rest. Once again, feeling the bowl of the pelvis become upright, those two sits bones pressing directly down into your seat, feeling the spine stack one vertebra at a time until the head is sitting atop, and once again, the center of the top of the head lengthening up towards the ceiling. Now, we're going to begin rocking forward and back again on those sits bones, tilting the pelvis forward and back. But this time, we're going to engage the breath with it. So as the pelvis tilts forward, I'm also going to feel my chest open up as I inhale. And then as I tilt the pelvis back, I'm going to feel my chest soften and I'm going to exhale. So we're going to inhale and then exhale. Inhale as we tilt forward. Exhale as we tilt back. Keep this going. Inhale forward, opening the chest. Exhale back, softening the chest. Keep it going. Inhale and exhale and in. Exhale. Quicker. Inhale and out and in. Out. 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 And release it. One time, slowly. Inhale, tilting forward. Then holding here. And exhale, tilting back. And holding here. And then returning the spine, the pelvis to upright once more. Now, once again, just beginning to mobilize through the pelvis, feeling the points of the sits bones rocking, shifting, feeling the tailbone pull closer to the seat, feeling the pubic symphysis in front pulling closer to the seat, really feeling the base of your pelvis shifting and moving. And as you do this, take your attention now into your hip sockets, the place where your femur, those long thigh bones, plug in to the pelvis. As you begin to rock and shift and move the bowl of the pelvis, feeling the residual effect in those hip sockets, coaxing them to be soft, to be mobile. And as you do this, start to feel weight shift into a foot as you begin to move into a particular leg. So maybe I'm tilting my pelvis into my left leg, feeling what happens at that hip socket, and then feeling how I can then allow weight to shift into that leg and down into that foot. Again, maybe I roll around and I shift towards my right leg with the tilt of my pelvis, and I feel that flexion, that crease in that hip, and feeling how the weight then travels down the leg and down into the foot. So continuing to rock and roll and shift and tilt the pelvis, continuing to feel what's happening in those hip sockets, but now really playing with sending more weight down into the legs, down into the feet, maybe even starting to develop some momentum so that you could shift and lift off of your seat and then shift back down onto it. Continuing to rock and roll, and then maybe shifting and lifting out of your seat and then gently softening back onto it. Allowing the spine up top to respond, allowing that pelvis to really be the initiator, allowing yourself to feel the movement and the mobility trickling down into the hips, and then feeling that weight shift into a leg, into the bottom of the foot as it brings you to standing and then back down. So now starting to play with this and find so much mobility and momentum that more and more often it sinks you into your feet and to standing. Maybe now, even as you lower down into the seat, the feet start to change places. The legs maybe open wider. Maybe the feet change their arrangement. One foot more in front, one foot more behind. Playing now not just with the tilt of the pelvis, but mobilizing through the hips and even more into the legs, allowing yourself to come into a seat and out of the seat. Take this play, this rock, this shifting just a few more times for yourself until you eventually arrive stable, standing on 2 feet. Take a moment here to continue to allow that pelvis to shift and rock and tilt. Continue to allow your weight to shift from one foot to the other. Continue to allow yourself to feel what's happening in those hip sockets, to allow the spine to respond. Allow it to soften into a moment of stillness. Feeling the mobility that you have in your pelvis that you can now carry throughout the day.